If you've never heard the name T.D. Jakes, you're missing one of the most thunderous, soul-shaking, and thought-provoking voices in the modern Christian world. Bishop Thomas Dexter Jakes is not just a preacher. He's an empire in a suit, part theologian, part entrepreneur, part motivational powerhouse. But behind the pulpit, behind the cameras, and beyond the thunderous applause, is a story of pain, power, health scares, controversy, and a family legacy in motion. Born on June 9, 1957, in South Charleston, West Virginia, Jakes was raised by a hardworking mother who taught school and a father who ran a janitorial business. By his teens, he was already preaching with passion. And yet, few imagined this quiet, lisping boy would one day fill stadiums and headline primetime TV. His journey into ministry didn't start on a grand stage. It began in 1980, when he founded Greater Emmanuel Temple of Faith, a storefront church with about 10 members in Montgomery, West Virginia. But what he lacked in numbers, he made up for in fiery, unrelenting faith. Word spread like holy wildfire. Jakes wasn't just preaching, he was pouring his soul into every syllable. And people came, hungry, broken, desperate, and they left full, healed, transformed. Then came the breakout moment. In 1993, Jakes launched Woman, Thou Art Loosed, a conference and book focused on healing emotional wounds, especially for women who had suffered abuse, abandonment, or trauma. What started as a church event snowballed into a national movement. Women flocked to hear this commanding voice that understood their pain. Oprah Winfrey took notice. Invitations started pouring in. The book sold over 1 million copies. The conference sold out arenas. By 1996, Jakes moved to Dallas, Texas, and founded the Potter's House, a non-denominational, multicultural megachurch that would become his global ministry headquarters. With over 30,000 members, an international TV broadcast, a record label, movies, stage plays, and books, T.D. Jakes didn't just become a pastor. He became a cultural force. But success didn't come without storms. Over the years, Jakes faced criticisms from traditional theologians. Some accused him of promoting prosperity gospel. Others challenged his early ambiguity about the Trinity. Still, Jakes remained grounded, clarifying his doctrinal positions, focusing on healing and empowerment, and refusing to be distracted by theological turf wars. "I'm too busy pulling people out of the water," he once said, "to debate the temperature." Jakes expanded his influence into Hollywood with the 2004 film adaptation of Woman, Thou Art Loosed, followed by hits like Jumping the Broom and Heaven is for Real. As a producer, his message traveled from pews to red carpets. He was bridging gospel and culture, faith and entertainment, heaven and the headlines. But no matter how high he climbed, he couldn't avoid life's valleys. In November 2024, during a sermon at the Potter's House, Jakes suffered what seemed at first like a minor medical episode. The service was cut short. He was rushed to the hospital. The world watched and waited. Then, in March 2025, he finally revealed the truth. It wasn't minor at all. He had suffered a massive heart attack. According to doctors, the right side of his heart had completely stopped receiving blood. 5 minutes more without intervention, and the bishop's journey would have ended on that pulpit. He later called it a miracle, not a metaphor, but a literal divine act that spared his life. After surgery, intensive care, and months of recovery, he returned to the pulpit on New Year's Eve 2024, standing not just as a preacher, but as a survivor. "You're looking at a miracle," he declared. And the congregation roared. But the storms weren't done. In early 2025, Jakes filed a defamation lawsuit against a former pastor who had accused him of inappropriate behavior. The case is ongoing. Jakes has denied all allegations and maintains that his record and character stand unshaken. The accuser himself reportedly has a history of criminal charges, including sexual misconduct. Whether this is a smear campaign or a genuine grievance, only time, and the courts, will tell. But for now, the bishop stands firm, shielded by faith and legal firepower. As if health and lawsuits weren't enough, Jakes made headlines again in April 2025, when he announced a massive shift. He was handing over the day-to-day operations of the Potter's House to his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband. It was more than succession, it was the birth of a legacy. Sarah, already a best-selling author and dynamic preacher in her own right, was no stranger to the spotlight. But her father's trust in her leadership made a loud, bold statement. The future of this ministry was female, fierce, and fearless. So now, in 2025, where does Bishop T.D. Jakes stand? He's alive. He's healing. He's letting go. But he's not stepping away. Jakes continues to write, speak, and advise. His influence is felt in business circles, film studios, prayer meetings, and even political forums. Presidents have called him. Celebrities have leaned on him. Millions have cried, worshipped, and danced under his sermons. Yet, he remains grounded. In his 2025 interviews, he often speaks about mortality, generational wealth, and emotional health. He's now more interested in legacy than applause. He wants to build not just ministries, but systems. Not just churches, but movements. He's preaching less about miracles and more about managing your life after the miracle. His story is not just about rising. It's about remaining. Remaining faithful in chaos. Remaining kind in criticism. Remaining focused through fatigue. It's not easy to survive in ministry for over 4 decades without scandal, bankruptcy, or collapse. Yet here stands Jakes, weathered but wise, bruised but still blessing others. The young preacher from West Virginia who started in a storefront now sits among the most recognized spiritual voices on earth. And whether you agree with his theology or not, whether you follow his sermons or just watched him in a film, one thing is impossible to deny. T.D. Jakes is a force. He's lived through betrayal, burnout, betrayal again, heart failure, false headlines, and even the deep sorrow of burying loved ones. But through it all, his voice has never cracked under pressure. It's only grown deeper, like a well that still hasn't run dry. And now, as he stands on the edge of legacy and transition, we're not watching a man slow down. We're watching a man evolve. To every young dreamer, every exhausted pastor, every leader questioning their future, Bishop T.D. Jakes is proof that your pain has a purpose. Your heart, though broken, can be restored. And your voice, no matter how small it starts, can echo across generations. So, if this story has touched you, even stirred something deep inside you, do this. Subscribe. Like. Comment. Because what you've just heard isn't just biography. It's testimony. And someone you know needs to hear it.